Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of The More Show. Now, my guest today is Meg Allen. Now, at the age of 10 years old, Meg became aware of her psychic abilities and began seeing spirit. Now, it wasn't until years later that she began working with this wonderful gift. Now, Meg is also a Qigong teacher, and she joins me today to discuss her incredible journey from an abusive background to standing in her power as a spiritual teacher and healer. Meg Allen, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kevin. It's lovely to be with you this afternoon.
It is great to have you on all the way from Doncaster in the UK. Now, Doncaster, for those that are international and may not know where that is in the UK and just know London, right? Doncaster is in the north, and we'll just show a little bit of a map right here, right now, where you are. Actually, you're just outside the capital of Doncaster. Doncaster's a big place. And I believe it used to have, or you'll know this, it used to be part of the coal minings. They used to do a lot of coal mining there.
They did, and all the mines have been closed now, Kevin.
Oh,
Unfortunately.
I can't imagine without looking through a history, but what it used to be like. And
it was thriving.
Was it really? Yeah. Wow.
Absolutely thriving. It's so sad because the communities have all broken down.
Yeah.
You know, there's no work. The majority of people don't work. And it's third generation. It's not just this generation. It's 3 generations now since the men had jobs and the women.
And the women as well. Yeah, because your father used to work. Is that right? He was in the coal mines? Have I got that right?
No, my father worked at a nearby power station, but both my granddads worked down the mines.
Yes. Okay. So there is a family generational lineage that goes there. Yeah, I thought there was. So yeah, and you've always lived in Doncaster. There was a time when you lived in London for a bit, and we'll get into that in the story. I think the way that I'm going to do this interview, Meg, is obviously, look, there's a sort of deep story to your background as well, and I'm going to leave some of that to the very end, right? To when because I want to get into your work, and then we'll start on your journey, get into your work, and then we're going to go to the rest of the story just a bit later on in this interview as well. So, well, I guess I know that your story starts off really when you was around 4 years old. Well, yeah, 4 years old. Now, this story that when you're 4 years old, this is when you had what you feel is your first sort of contact with what you would call the Angelic Realm.
Yes.
Okay. Just tell us about that story very briefly.
My younger brother had passed away, and I can remember being in the corner of my parents' bedroom. And over the far side of the bedroom was a little, like a fireplace. And I sat up because I thought the room's gone very bright. And I sat up and I saw this glowing, huge figure in the corner of the bedroom. And I thought, what on earth? Well, as a child, you just don't know. You think, what is it? And that was my first introduction to the Angelic Realms. And it was that I called this particular angel my guardian angel, and I gave him the name Arthur. Don't know where Arthur came from. I've always been... but saying that, when I've just thought about Arthur and the Round Table. Because I've always had affinity to the Round Table.
Really?
King Arthur, yes.
Yeah, that's
strange, that.
Kevin.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting, yeah, because you've been watching my work when it comes to Kerry Cassidy and the sort of King Arthur with Mark Richards, right? And
yes.
And then some of the Simon Park stuff that I've done. But I mean, I know that you've been watching the More Show for well, I think since probably Dolores Cannon, because that was a big influence. Dolores was on yourself as well with some of the teachings. Yeah, King Arthur. Yeah, who knows, right? God.
Who knows?
Yeah.
I know that Ralph Ellis said that there was no such thing as King Arthur, but I have a really strong feeling that there was, but that's just my feeling.
Oh, Ralph Ellis, yes, one of my previous guests. Yes, I know him. Yes, he has some interesting viewpoints, didn't he, when it came to the alternative, historical view on Christ and the, that journey. Yeah, absolutely. So, how old were you when your brother died then?
I was about 4.
Oh, so now,
So it was only 13 months younger than I was.
right. So when you had the angelic vision, was your brother alive at that point?
No, he died.
Okay. Now, just prior to your brother passing, and I mean, of course, you're 4 years old. What do you really remember, right? So it's a bit of a difficult question to ask you, but do you think that your mother at the time, before your brother passed, she was more loving towards you at that point?
No, no, she was never loving towards me. She never liked me. Isn't it strange? Never once in my entire life did my mother kiss or embrace me. Not once.
Now, you had an older sister, and was she effective towards the older sister?
No, sorry, my sister was 4 years younger than I am.
Oh, was she 4 years younger? Sorry. Was she effective then to the younger sister?
She was very affectionate.
And she was affectionate towards your brother?
Yes.
Now, when your brother died, and he just remind us how he died, he passed away from
Pneumonia.
Okay.
It had measles. It had measles and turned into pneumonia.
I mean, God, nowadays, just think that could be recoverable from. But I guess, back then, it just wasn't, was it? Unfortunately, it was, life threatening. Yeah, and so as soon as he had passed, I can't imagine what it was like for the family when he did pass. But you remember, as soon as him passing, that that's when the physical abuse, started with Mum.
Yes, it did.
Had that lasted up to your 30s? Was it early 30s?
Yes, and I actually brought it to a stop. My mother used to beat me terribly. She used to black my eyes and bust my nose, scream and shout. She threw me downstairs when she found out I was pregnant. I was a child bride. Almost lost my son at that point. I remember when I did start in labour with my son, my mother put me in the back of an ambulance and said, and don't sound a word, don't be making a noise. She wouldn't come with me. She wouldn't support me or anything like that. But I'd got used to this. I was used to the beatings. I was used to being mentally and emotionally abused.
Well, when she trucked you down the stairs when you were pregnant, what did she say to you when she trucked you down?
She says, "You come on, dirty little slut."
Did you tell anyone? Did your friends not say to you, what are these marks on your face? Or
No, but I had one very kind auntie that knew. She sensed it. My mother wasn't liked by many people at all because of her attitude. So it wasn't just she didn't have a very nice attitude. She wasn't a very nice person, and that's terrible saying that about your mum. But she was. I probably had to be hard to cope with the grief of losing my brother.
Well, and then Dad at the time, he had a mental breakdown, did he? Or
he had a nervous breakdown. Yes, he couldn't cope with death. But my mother had always been a very dominating woman. My father was very, very feminine-like, and just allowed her to do whatever she wanted to do. And part of that was watching me being beaten.
Do you think that's what in your work you would call an imbalance of having both the feminine and masculine energies that we all need to have? Yeah.
My mother was dominated by the masculine and my father was dominated by the feminine. There was no balance there.
I mean, how could they have got balance? How could a couple get balance like that? I mean, that's got to come from them wanting to change, isn't it? And they didn't want to.
No, they didn't. But Kevin, thinking about it now, people are just learning about consciousness, aren't they? This last, would you say 10, 15 years, it's becoming more apparent. And thinking back, I did start learning things like that. My mother used to see my granddad beat my grandma. So she could have actually been conditioned that way, but she was very, very dominant. She took the lead role, the masculine role in the household. I was about 30 when I actually realised just how much she hated me. She'd come along to my house, and invited her for lunch, and said, "Come on, Mum, I'll take you home now." And just as I bent down to help her up out of the chair, she kicked me in the chest, in the centre of my chest. She spat in my face, and she swore at me, saying that she absolutely hated me, and she wished that I'd died and not my brother. And it was that point I thought, I understand.
That happened.
I understand now.
That happened. What, from helping her to get up? I mean, there was no sort of, there was an argument that took place before that, was there? Or
No, nothing. No, I'd got a huge big sofa in my home, and she was only a small woman, very small. So I was helping her up out of the sofa. As I went to actually touch her to pull her up, she actually just kicked me in the middle of my chest and spat in my face, and then said how much she hated me. And I thought, that must be terrible to live with all that anger and hate inside you, and to wish your own daughter dead. It was like, I can't believe you've just said that to me.
No, I mean, so that was that was the last straw, and then you never saw her again, or you did see her again, or
I saw her a few times, but I thought, I don't want to be near anyone that hates me. I mean, it was very traumatic, Kevin. It's like I just didn't forgive her there and then. It took a lot of time to process, but I thought, I can't cope. If I take the anger on from my mother, I don't want the energy that rules her, because she was obsessed with anger, and I thought, I don't want that in my life. So I decided at that point, I'm walking away.
Obsessed with anger, as though that everything in her life was always angry. Any situation was met with anger. Is that what you mean, or she doing?
It was, yes. I don't think I ever saw a smile. I don't think I heard a laugh. You know, on reflection, it was like she led such a sad life with grieving, and she never got over the grieving. Probably in a different lifetime, we do get help, don't we, with grieving. But at that point, you just had to do it yourself. But because she was dominant, she wasn't going to allow anyone to help her.
Well, you must have visited the grave then as well. You must have gone, seen Mum's. I mean, were you there at the funeral? Or I'm just, you know.
No, I wasn't allowed at the funeral, but I wouldn't have gone anyway. But I was in the vicinity when she did get buried. You know, I made sure that I was around about that area. I was sat with a friend. So a few weeks after she'd been buried, I do apologise. I did take some flowers to the grave the next day. And then a few months later, when the headstone had been put up, I went along and took some flowers, because I don't believe in the body. I just believe that the body dies. I don't believe in death. I don't normally go to graveyards because I do believe that the souls have entered into a different dimension. So I went along and I sat on the side, well, in front of the grave, and looked at the wording. And then at the bottom it says, "And you're back together again." And I thought, that's all she ever wanted, to be with her son. And I thought, how sad, what a waste of her life to live with so much anger.
And what she could have done with her life, yeah. But do you think that through her choice of her actions, that there would have been something she got from that? Maybe there would have been something she got from. She would have been many things that she got from this life, and maybe even to have the experience of living in such anger was an experience that her soul needed for whatever crazy reason that we come to do these things. Do you know what I mean?
I don't think she wanted help, Kevin. I honestly do. I did try, but it wasn't going to happen. The anger and the grief, I think, was too much for her to bear. Because she didn't, although she worked hard, she also had not a bad life. She did travel a lot. She went to different countries and enjoyed a decent life at times. But not a happy woman. But there again, there's so many on this planet not happy, is there?
Uh, yeah, so true, so true. So she was one of your major teachers then in this lifetime that you've had. We're going to get into other teachers later on that you've had, but would you class her as a teacher? I mean, I'm using that word.
Yes, to teach me how to be a victim. The conditioning of the victim mentality. That was the onslaught of what led me along my path, making so many, I'm not going to say mistakes, because I think the lessons that I've had to learn as I go along, that the law of attraction, which I keep referring to, it does work. And I felt unworthy, which you would do if you're not loved by your mum and just beaten.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, I can't imagine it, Meg. I really can't. Then let's just remind people as well. I'm just going to butt in here. Just remind people that your website, megallen.com, and that's coming up on the screen right now.
No, megallen.co.uk.
Oh God, I'm so American, aren't I? I do apologize. Yes, megallen.co.uk. That's right. And that's coming up on the screen as well. I apologize for that. Yeah. And again, all the links that we're going to discuss in this show are in the description of the video as well. So, yeah. God, I don't know what to say with the things that you've just told me. Actually, it's difficult. It's difficult to hear them, and it's that someone could go into so much pain and be so and act like they have done towards you. And again, obviously, you've got the sister as well. Maybe she was told, I'm just personifying here, but maybe she was told by mum different things which weren't true, and obviously, and also, it was mum's wishes that you were to be ostracized. I don't know. You'll never know, will we? I mean, I'm just saying things that may not even be true. I mean, what do you think of the reason why? Do you think?
I don't know, and I don't think it really matters, does it, Kevin?
Well, I was just going to say, on top of what I was saying, that absolutely, I was going to say, actually, no, it doesn't. But I was going to say maybe that's just part of the life course that the part of the life lessons. I mean, I'm not making excuses for them. I'm just saying, what if? We don't know, do we?
There's many people like me, millions of women like me, other men, that are abused, that think it's normal, because up to me, it was normal. It was normal to be beaten. It was normal to be rejected. It was normal for me not to be loved. In fact, my favourite auntie, they used to call me Cinderella, because I used to have to do everything in the house because my mum worked.
Oh, right. Yes. And actually, what I was referring to there was not that just to make an excuse for the abuse. I was actually talking about the relationship with your sister, about why that's been closed off.
I do apologize.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Everything you're saying is so good anyway. And you know what? We don't have to go into the sister. I wasn't going to go into the sister relationship. I was just saying that maybe there's deeper reasons why the sister has closed the doors. But and I was really saying that maybe it's again from a spiritual point of view, it's all learning of things like closure, isn't it? And to learning to forgive, and and being independent and everything else. I mean, these are some hard lessons that you've had to go through, Meg.
It's been frightening as well, Kevin. You have to stand on your own 2 feet. It's been very, very difficult. I brought my 2 children up by myself, which wasn't easy, working and getting through college. But we have the strength, and I keep coming back to this strength. If you believe in angels, or you believe in God, or you don't, ask for help, and you'll always get that strength given to you to get through that particular time.
Yes.
That's traumatic.
Absolutely. Now, there was a real traumatic time between 74 and 84, which we're going to get into later on in this interview. Okay. And we're going to go to the second marriage. Now, the second marriage that you had, which was another sort of really difficult time for yourself. Well, actually, let me ask you this. Was the first marriage, was that abusive?
Yes. Yes, the first marriage was abusive, but not like the second one. The second one was terrible.
When you say the first one was abusive in what ways?
He used to hit me, but I wasn't frightened of him. And the majority of our fallouts were because of my mother. Although she was like she was with me, I still stood up for her. You know, and my husband used to say, you know, it's horrible. She's horrible. Why'd you stick up for her? Well, to me, she was my mother. But the second one, a very, very intelligent man, very loved by his parents, but extremely jealous and an alcoholic. To such a point that he cut me off from all my friends and my family. I was absolutely terrified of him. He would sleep with a long carving knife under his pillow and say that if I didn't do what he wanted me to do, he would rip my face up with a knife. He would stand over me and urinate over my body if he felt like that when he came in drunk. But what happened was one particular day, he came home early from work because he used to work away most of the time. And he just came into the house and started shouting at me and hit me, and I walked out and never went back. But what he did was, through that time, I actually asked for help, and I was directed to a Qigong class, something I'd never heard of, couldn't dream of what it would be about. But going to that Qigong class changed my life.
Okay,
forever.
okay. Now, just before we get to the Qigong, so when you left that abusive relationship, you left with the kids.
No, the children were growing up.
Oh.
I was married to my first husband for 18 years. I then got divorced and was by myself for 4 years before remarrying my second husband.
Right. I see. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. And with the first marriage, then there was a time when and tell me if I'm wrong here, because I'm not too sure the dates, but then you left Doncaster with your young children, got away from mum in a sense, and went to London. Was that going to London with the first marriage?
No, I was with another man at that point.
Okay.
My husband had left me for my best friend.
From the first marriage?
Yes.
Okay. Wow. Okay. And then you ended up in London, and then you ended up then when you were diagnosed with cancer, which we'll get into later on, that's when you then came back to Doncaster, because that's where you wanted to see your treatment through. That's where you thought you'd have a bit of support.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So he left you for another woman. Well, best friend. Sorry. Yeah. Which must have been just another just another challenge, right? Another day at the park.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I see. So let's get into your Qigong work, because this is really important. So and I mean, just the things you described with your second husband, with the threats and everything else, and just the craziness. Was any of this mentioned in the divorce of your second husband? When you divorced him, did you mention any of this stuff in the divorce, like how he'd acted towards you? Or was that never mentioned?
No, because if you were separated for 2 years and you were both in agreement,
oh, I see,
you'd get divorced.
I see. So it was just,
and I didn't want to go through all that trauma.
No, of course not. Right. I just wondered how it worked. Yeah. Okay.
Can I just stop there, Kevin? Because he got throat cancer. He was dead at 50.
Wow. So he died at 50.
Yes.
How did that make you feel? How did you feel when you heard that he had passed away?
We'd gone back to whence he came. I'd forgiven him at that point, Kevin. It was like,
I see. Okay. So your Qigong work now, because of the second husband, he kind of, with everything that went on, that it pushed you to do the Qigong work, which is kind of amazing in its own right, in the sense, how life's like. You're never on the wrong path in the end, are you? It may seem really bleak as hell, but actually, you're not on you are on the right path. So now, what did Qigong do for you at the very beginning point? I mean, I know you probably went there and you thought, oh my God, what is this? Do you know what I mean? When you were guided to go to Qigong, but how did it change you?
First of all, I found my confidence returning. And I also felt, because at that point also, I'd got a terrible back problem, which now I believe was psychosomatic. I was addicted to painkillers. So it healed my back healed very quickly by doing the Qigong. But as I continued, I just got stronger and stronger. I could feel an actual power inside myself, that the breath would actually power up. I used to start seeing colours, mostly the colour purple. And I knew at that point I had to become a teacher. I knew that there was something in Qigong that I didn't know what it was about. But it, to me, and this is all I can say about Qigong and myself, is it's a balancer. It gives you the strength, it heals you, it helps you to heal yourself. But most important, it was the balancing, to get myself balanced between the feminine and the masculine. I didn't know at the time, Kevin, I wasn't aware at the time. It's years later when it becomes evident of what it's about.
So at the point when you were practicing, having started your Qigong, was that when your connection with these angels was coming more into sort of like stronger in a sense, that, or they were actually coming through? When did you realize that you was a sort of angel lady in a sense?
I think it was all to do with the breathing, Kevin. It was actually powering the chi up in my body. Was able to make a stronger connection. This is when I actually realized that I was connecting to a huge energy source. And what I would do is I would share it with the group. And I was amazed that the group was actually picking up the same colours that I was. And I asked the other teachers if it was happening to them, and then nobody said no. We just do the movement. So I knew that it must have been some help coming from a source that I could actually connect to. And what happened as well, Kevin, is, I did teach all over the UK, taught in old people's homes, taught in disabled establishments, and people were getting better. People's health was improving. And they were saying, how can a simple movement help you? But it was all to do with the colours, which I found strange because it was only happening to me.
Well, looking on your website and you knowing a little bit about Qigong as well, Qigong, for somehow it's because it's energy movement, it's allowing people to become pain free from some of their more painful conditions that they've been experiencing long term. It's helped people to love and respect themselves. It's helps with people to heal in positive ways, and to heal maybe inner pain as well. And it's obviously a good level of fitness and health. And I guess for some people, it's just a sort of gentle way for caring for themselves.
Yes. So it goes from one extreme to the other, doesn't it, really? I think it all depends on the connection. It's the inner connection that people make. Probably this is what the Grandmasters say. Make that connection and your world changes. And it did for me.
And I think it was part of your process for allowing you to forgive so many people. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. It was. Yeah. Yes. Because we haven't yet spoken about what happened to you prior, between 74 and 84, which we're going to get into just, after this part of our chat as well. So I just want to talk about as well some of the services that you offer, because I think that will sort of go into your connections and how you work. And now you would say you do channel privately, and when you do the sessions as well with clients, there is a sort of channeling modality that's going on there. Sometimes your channeling is a bit more subtle. It's kind of like in the background in a sense, but it's there as part of the sessions as well. Yeah. And I guess if people did want to ask questions or have a channeled response, that can be done, but that's not really what you do. Now, just tell us the two angels that you're working with your healing packages mainly.
I started working, this is as far as I can remember, 30 years ago with Archangel Zadkiel. And then 5 years ago, I was introduced to another archangel called Archangel Amethyst. Never heard of this archangel whatsoever. And she's a twin flame to Archangel Zadkiel. So I knew there was some form of balancing being introduced. into the grounding.
And this is this whole masculine feminine balancing as well. Yeah.
Yes. Because remember, Qigong is the yin and the yang, and it all started coming together. Then I'm thinking, started to piece it together, because I never questioned anything. I just did what I needed to do, or what I was told to do in the class.
Right. Yeah. Do you know what? That's what I get with you. You don't really question much. You just do. And I don't. I mean, how much? If have you ever sort of read any sort of like books that really inspired you in the spiritual movement? Is there anything that sort of really like you sort of delve deep into, or are you sort of self-taught in a sense?
Self-taught. People normally buy me books and I read them. Then I'll think, yeah, I can do that, and yeah, I've seen that, and yeah. But I do it in a different way. It's like lots of people say, no, I'm going to this class and I'm going to do that. But I've never deviated. It's like I think, is it a blind faith? Would you call it a blind faith that I know is right? Because Kevin, if I don't follow instructions, I pay the price.
Well, there is that. Yeah. I mean, and I'm sure when you've sort of had that internal dialogue sometimes, and I know that you do a lot, you speak to these angels just even internally, right? Just or privately, right? When you're maybe like I always promote channeling the higher self, but I mean, you've got connections to this energy as well, which maybe is part of your higher self, right? And I guess when you don't listen, as we're saying there, right, it always ends up like, oh, yeah, they came, yeah,
you should have done it. You should have done it. Can I just say that sometimes when I am teaching classes, I don't know at the time, but the students will say that my voice changes, which I find very strange. That didn't sound like you. You seem to go into a different energy.
Right. Yes. I've heard that. Right. That happens for you, does it? Wow. Okay. Well, I'm not surprised.
Does.
No, I know you've not done many of these interviews, and this is like your very second one probably. Well, actually, this is the only interview where you're going to go into so much detail as your first one. Yeah, I guess then that you don't publicly channel that connection publicly, like I said before, it's just a kind of private connection. But have you ever had a dialogue with them as to why the connection's with you, or as to any questions you've got on the meaning of reality and stuff? Do you have those kind of quiet moments, or do you not?
I do, and the most important thing that is said is forgive and love, and show people how to love themselves.
So easy, isn't it, Meg?
It's been a very, very long journey for me, Kevin, but I feel as though it can be accelerated for people.
Right, so you feel that for your... Yeah, I see what you're saying here. You feel that for the length of time it's taken you to get to where you are. And there's no I mean, so what if it's taken you a while to get to where you are? But you're saying that you feel that for others it can be a lot accelerated because of what you've learned as well on the journey of your own healing. Yeah.
I was told 7 years ago to contact you.
You mean 7 minutes ago, right?
No,
I know what you said. I know what you said.
Years.
Yeah. 7 years. But what is 7 years between friends? I suppose it's... I know. What I do you know what that tells me is that tells me is everything at the right time. Maybe it wasn't the right time before, or maybe I've just been 7 years so busy. No, I've not. I mean, it wasn't supposed to be, was it? It wasn't supposed to be.
It wasn't, else it would have happened.
Exactly. That's all you can say. And for folks wanting to get in contact with me, that's just how long it takes, and it doesn't. I do remember you getting in contact, and I think between us, it just wasn't the right time. Something I cannot remember. I can't remember actually now how when we first spoke, because it was a long time ago, wasn't it? Yeah,
it was. But it wasn't the right time, was it? We weren't ready.
No. And I think you're more confident in your work right now. You're more confident in yourself. You're more not that we ever spoke off, on air before, or on any video chat. But I think don't you feel that now it's like you've just maybe had to go through a few more things, and maybe I did as well. So we always want it now, don't we? Don't we? Yeah,
we do.
We do. We do.
Yes.
And this goes for some of the readings that people give others as well, and maybe you've given others, that just, we tell you that maybe potentially this is what's going to happen, and or if it's such a pull that it really wants to happen, regardless of what path you take to deviate from it, right? But some things are destined, aren't they? And some of these readings that you give, then I'm guessing that again, it takes time to manifest.
It does, but they don't always manifest, do they? Because people choose to go on a different timeline.
Yes, that's true. For what you're saying there is we've got the free will to deviate from what we're being told. Just because we're being told this is the way it is, because on the path that we're on right now is what's going to be the result. Yeah, I get what you're saying there. That you still have the free will to change it, don't you? As you very much well know. Yeah.
But don't you think it's very powerful having that free will, and we don't use it correctly, do we? Well, I never.
Not always, do we? That's right. No, we don't. We don't trust it.
We don't. We think we know better. Our egos overtake us, don't
or
they?
we think, yeah, that's true. Or we think we don't need to go. We don't need to experience it when actually it really is beneficial. But yeah, some things you don't want to hear, do you? I guess.
No. And some things you don't want to do.
Some things you don't want to do. That's right. Yeah, absolutely. And I bet you see that in the clients that you work with when you give the sessions to. Yeah,
I do. And you can see some people, they actually connect immediately and others don't. And it's their choice, isn't it?
It's their free will, whether they're doing it as a circle jerk, or whether they're doing it to because they want help but they're scared, or they're doing it for whatever reason. It's best to do it for a really decent intention of wanting help, or wanting change, to come see you. Do you know what I mean? Your time's too precious to waste, but it happens that I don't think it's a waste, but they're just for whatever reason, it just falls on deaf ears. And
we all learn. We learn in the long run, don't we, Kevin?
Oh, tell me about that. Absolutely, we do. Now, I just want to mention about your packages that you do as well, just very quickly. We've got celestial packages there. We've got you do a number of packages, actually. Just very quickly, with the celestial packages, you've got celestial package 1, 2, and 3. Now, just very briefly, what is the difference between some of these packages? I know it's all on the website, but I've only got very limited notes in front of me. Would you better to explain that?
It all depends on the depth that a person wants to go, Kevin. So let's say package 3, they just want an angel card reading and an energy balancing. Program 2, they want a little bit more. You get a card reading with everyone. But package 2, you get a little bit more in depth, because I can actually connect you to your guardian angel and introduce you to Archangel Amethyst and Archangel Zadkiel. But package 1 is when you're totally connected, and I can actually connect with your energy. Because there's only one energy, Kevin. And I can actually, with the permission of my client, connect with their energy, so I know exactly what's happening in their body, mind, and spirit.
Right. And in these sessions, do any sort of past relatives sometimes pop through, or is that not what?
Oh, they do. They do. I've got to be very careful. Lots of protection on me, because lots of people want to come through, especially when you're in a meditative state. If I do believe that they're needed, and you would help the client, then I would take a message and give the client a message. And that does happen. But I also then work with my guide, and it could be from a past life that's stopping them going forward. So on package 1, I'm able to go deeper. Normally when the client comes, they tell me what they would expect from the session. I can't always guarantee it's going to happen, but 9 times out of 10 it does. So it all depends on the depth that the client wants to go into.
Of course, and these readings are worldwide. Obviously, you do your sessions worldwide via Skype, I believe, which is what we're using right now just to do this video call. Yeah, and again, your work attracts all walks of life, all age groups, I want to say as well. It's it's not just people who of a certain age group who are maybe not very well. I mean, this, whatever the age, I know that you do a lot of local work as well in Doncaster, and that's attracted a whole client base of young and old with your work, looking for answers. Do you normally get more women for your readings?
No, it's more to the feminine, more females. But I am getting more males, but it's normally, I was quite surprised because initially I thought it would be women of my age group, the more mature ladies, but there's younger ladies coming in. I think wanting to make sure that they don't make as many mistakes in their lives if can help it. But normally the biggest age gap I've got between 30, I would say from 30 to 45. Realizing that it's that they can actually create their own lives, because the law of attraction has become very, very prominent, hasn't it? Especially with, I like listening to Abraham.
Oh yes, Abraham Hicks. Yes. Yep.
I like Abraham Hicks. I mean, I've got the law of attraction. I also like reading the Four Agreements. I've been delved into all different kinds of religions, thinking that the answers I wanted was there, but unfortunately for me, there weren't. The answers that I needed is within me.
Yes, and it's so powerful that at this stage of your life right now, that you've stepped into your power. That now you're promoting yourself. You're coming onto a talk show like this, and that you're believing in yourself. That now's your time. And I'm guessing you've had the voice and the angels there, pushing you to say, come on. Yeah, I bet you have.
There's been times when I'm saying I don't want to go on. Can I now just sit and watch the television or go to a bingo like most people my age? And it's like, no, off you go. We're
around friends here, do you know what I mean? And but I you've got to pat yourself on the back for not only coming on here, right? But also for wanting to help people. I think that's the biggest thing for me, for you. Thank you for doing what you do. To want to help, because there's many people that need your help.
Thank you. And there is, Kevin. This is what I've been told, Meg. You can help so many people, but you think, but it's not me that helps, is it? I am just the instrument for the energy. And they've given me such a lot of help throughout my years, throughout my life, Kevin. I can't deny passing that on to other people.
No, and I'm sure they thank you for that. And I just don't want to discount Meg in this process as well, because obviously without Meg, we don't have the connection with these beings, and you're not going to be able to do the work that people need. So it's a collaboration, definitely, definitely. It's fascinating, I just find it fascinating that you've got the connection with them, and they've just stayed with you all this time. Do you think if they had a message, what do you think their message would be? If you could hear them now, what would they say? What's the message?
Just for what's happening on this planet today, if people just loved themselves and each other, there would be no problems whatsoever. We would live on a beautiful, beautiful planet. We do live on a beautiful planet. We just don't realise how beautiful it is. And we don't realise how beautiful we are and how precious we are to that energy. And I think that's why the angels have been with me so much throughout my life, because they realise that it's taken me a long time to realise how precious I am and how much I do love me. It's taken a long time, Kevin, especially from an early childhood, that you've been a victim of abuse.
You've been a victim of abuse from a childhood. You've had major domestic violence, domestic abuse, and we're going to get into another abusive story just after in just a bit. And I don't know how you do it, Meg. But you have, and I know people watching this will just have an outpouring of love for you. And for coming on to share and be so brave to share your stories as well. I think that's another big thing. And this push that you're getting right now to want to come on a show like this, I think, would you say there's many that are being pushed right now because the world needs it, because of the major changes that are in the very early stages of happening?
I do. I mean, it's taken a lot for me to contact you, Kevin. And he was like, I don't want to do this. But I feel as though there's a, what's the word that I'm looking, there's a force just pushing like workers. It's like, keep pushing. It's actually going to explode. It's going to implode. And the world is going to become a better place, and it's going to become full of love. And the feminine are really going to understand. I think, in my mind, the imbalance between the male and the female has been orchestrated.
Can I just say something with what you're saying? I hate people are going to hate me for interrupting you there, right there. But I just want to add something to what you're saying, because I think you may have something good to say about this, and I know we've got limited time. What if there was more women running the world? Right? What if in charge of Russia right now would have been a woman? I mean, I'm not saying it would have been different, but there would have been differences. I mean, what all this masculine energy, all these frigging wars, and now we've got this, issue with what we're going through right now in Europe with Russia. What's your take on that?
Yes, fine, if the women had feminine energy masculine them. Because remember, my mother was in a feminine body, which was masculine energy. So it's getting the right energy into the dimensions that we need to be. Yes, I don't know if you, I know lots of women who are in powerful jobs, but they don't have much love in their hearts. All they want is to feed their ego. And they're normally fighting the male energy. They want the same wages as the male. So yes, I do agree that we do want feminine energy, but it's got to be the right women with the right energy.
Do you think we'd be shocked that actually in past civilizations we've always thought that it was the males that were running it, and actually at a time beyond now and a time that's forgotten, that maybe there was women that ruled the planet in a sense?
I do believe that women did rule the planet at one time. Never looked into it, but deep in my heart, I feel as though this time is right now for the feminine energy. And this is what I pick up from Archangel Amethyst when she grounds me into the planet's energy field. That yes, we need to be grounded. We need to be strong. We need to get the masculine balance. And this is what the Qigong is all about. And the balancing that I offer is to become soft when needed.
I'm just going to say this as well. I forgot as well, before we move on, the online video that you have, you've done a wonderful, you put together a wonderful presentation of your Qigong, teaching it to that anyone can watch this online, on these online videos, right, and online video, and learn Qigong. And you said it for a price on your website, which of course this cost you a lot to produce, because it's been produced professionally, it's been edited professionally, the sound score's been done professionally. It was a DVD at one point, but now obviously it's online, which is the way everything's gone, which is the way it should be. And anyone in the world can support you by purchasing this online video and learning the basics of Qigong, because it's been professionally filmed with yourself. I'm going to recommend it. It's coming up on the screen right now. And yeah, so I just didn't want to forget that.
It's just the modern way. It's Meg's modern way of Qigong. It's all about being soft and balanced and grounded, with some sweet music in the background, which doesn't normally happen at a Qigong class. But it's a feminine way of releasing of embracing the feminine energy on the planet. But also, it helps you build your masculine up as well. So, Kevin, it's all about balance. It's not about, and he said, what about women? Yes, it's fine if a woman's balanced, but if she's working on a masculine energy, it's so much work.
Yeah, I can say that as well. I've come across a few unbalanced women, even in this field. I mean, should I mention Kerry Cassidy, right? I mean, I'm not being cruel, but I see it. There's an unbalance in so many ways. Yes. I'm being cruel saying that, aren't I? But I'm not. But I've experienced it. I know what it's like, and I'm not saying that I'm perfect. Of course, I'm bloody well not. I'm sure there's times when I'm unbalanced in more ways than one. But yeah, I have experienced that. Oh God, actually, we're talking about my last relationship. Yep, I could say that as well. Right, I better be quiet right now. I'm gonna get myself in trouble, right? So, okay, yeah. If there's anything you want to add to that before we just move on, then please do.
No, I'm fine.
Well, I just wanted to touch upon some of the services that you offer, because obviously that goes into some of the healing modalities that you offer, and there's so much into those individual healing modalities. And I know obviously this is part of the channeling docu-series that you've come on. I wanted to show that channeling doesn't always have to be what we think it is, and it can come in many forms as well, which is what you offer. And channeling is part of your work, isn't it? Of course, but it's not. It's not the forefront. Am I correct in saying that?
Basically, Kevin, it's teaching people how to be channelers themselves. Everyone has the ability. Every single human being on this planet has that ability. It's if they want to do it and how they're going to do it.
Right. Yes, and even if you're channeling your higher self, just to listen to your higher self come through sometimes, is a marvelous thing, because I mean that higher self just knows, doesn't it? It's got all the answers.
It's wonderful, isn't it, when you actually channel to your inner self? You can't explain it to people, can you? It's something that is, let's say, out of this world.
Yes, and it's such a loving, caring side of yourself that just wants the best for you. Do you know what I mean? Which is a form of self-love when you do that, isn't it? I suppose, when you listen.
But don't you find it's very difficult to love yourself, Kevin?
Oh, absolutely.
People think that they love themselves because they put nice clothes on their bodies, but it's not. It's far, far deeper than that, isn't it? It's connecting with something that's absolutely wonderful.
Meg, there's so much to your story, which we're going to get into as well. I think with your packages that you offer, let's just have a quick look at some of the services that you offer on your website. So we've got, obviously we've got the online classes with Qigong practice. That's one thing. But you do like the Celestial Healing Package 1 and 2. So with the Celestial Healing Package, what can people get from those packages?
They will get my help, Kevin, to actually detox their minds and bodies using the colour therapies that I use from Archangel Amethyst and Archangel Zadkiel. So it's actually having a good clear out internally. I've done it at different prices, Kevin, because lots of people can't afford package 1. They can afford package 2 or 3. But basically, it's all about balancing people's energy, working with the colour therapy. And also, especially in package 1, I teach people how to use energy bowls, that's how I've healed myself. Energy bowls that they can actually feel the energy enter their bodies, working with, and I will actually give them colours to work with. And that comes from my channeling. This is how I channel the energy of knowing what that individual's body needs. The healing, angel cards, people like angel readings, they like tarot card readings and what have you. But what we've got to understand is when I do an angel card reading, that is that timeline at that time. People don't take action most of the time. They think it's going to happen. Well, it doesn't. You have to take action on that timeline most of the time. And I think this is where people get wrong, when they go for readings, psychic readings, is they think, I'll sit here and it's going to happen. It doesn't work that way, unfortunately. You have to take action, and it's normally very quickly after the reading. And this is why I do the angel card reading, say, this is what the angels are saying, this is what can happen in your life. And they just sit back and think, well, go on then. And it doesn't, because they don't do anything about it.
Right, okay, and then we've got, there's a Celestial Healing Package 3, but then we've also got the Stepping Stones journey. So is that a bit more of a sort of, one-to-one with yourself over a number of weeks, is it?
It's a 7-week program, which I actually launched on Valentine's Day. My guide said to me, really, there's so many people getting divorced, and I've been married 3 times. And it's basically, I found out that you can't have a proper relationship if you're on a different vibration. And you've got to be on the same vibration or the same frequency. But we don't do that. I found out that I was actually on the wrong vibration, basically because I thought I could change people. You have no right whatsoever to change people. So what I've done is I've done a 7-week program where I can actually help people know what kind of vibration they are on so they can attract the person that they want in their lives with their vibration. You know, it's people, they can be married 5 years, they can be married a few months, years, long time. You can realize that this isn't working. I wonder why. And it's basically because you're not vibrating correctly on the same vibration as the person you thought was. So the stepping stones is a way to actually say, well, what do I want from the person that I want to attract? And you have to know what you want to attract the right person. And that has been a long journey for me, Kevin. It's now, what do I want to attract in my life? Setting boundaries, but also making sure that the most important thing in that relationship is love. And working together.
Channeling doesn't always have to be what we think it is, and it can come in many forms as well, which is what you offer. And channeling is part of your work, isn't it? Of course, but it's not the forefront. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes. Basically, Kevin, it's teaching people how to be channelers themselves. Everyone has the ability. Every single human being on this planet has that ability. It's if they want to do it and how they're going to do it.
Yes, and you know, even if you're channeling your higher self, just to listen to your higher self come through sometimes, you know, is a marvelous thing, because I mean that higher self just knows, doesn't it? It's got all the answers. You know, it's
wonderful, isn't it, when you actually channel to your inner self?
Yeah. Oh,
you can't explain it to people, can you? It's something that is, let's say, out of this world.
Yes, and it's such a loving, caring side of yourself that just wants the best for you. Do you know what I mean? Which is a form of self-love when you do that, isn't it? I suppose, when you listen.
But don't you find it's very difficult to love yourself, Kevin? You know, people think that they love themselves because they put nice clothes on their bodies, but it's not. It's far deeper than that, isn't it? It's connecting with something that's absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, and I think all of us, and I can say for myself as well, are well, not for all of us, but I can say for myself that, you know, that self-love is a continuous journey. Continuous.
It is.
Yeah. So, but I wanted to speak about some of your story as well, which we're now going to get into as well, because obviously, you know, I just wanted to sort of shape what it is that you do, and then, you know, how you got there as well. So okay, so with the when you was in your early sort of 20s, you obviously a very, you know, sort of abusive mother. When did you start working? Let's get this right. When did you start working for the national healthcare system in the UK?
I didn't work until start working until 2007.
Okay, and let's go further back then. So between 1970 and 1974, what were you doing then? Can you recollect?
That's when I was living in London.
Okay, so you'd left Doncaster and you were living in London. See, I knew London was in there somewhere, right? So you must have been bringing up your children then in London.
I was separated from my husband, and I found out I got cancer. So I came back to Doncaster to be near my family.
Right. Okay. So when you came back to Doncaster, then let's go to a point in life that was really difficult for you. Then, when this GP that you had as a family GP for gosh, you know, almost a decade, has started to physically and sexually abuse you then?
When I came back to Doncaster, there was a new GP had taken place, which was the doctor that we're going to talk about. So I went to him because I was having treatment and I was going through operations. And he put me on Valium. I don't know if you've heard of a medication called Valium, which is quite addictive. Also, I was separated from my husband. So I was fighting cancer, separated from my husband, and getting very little help. The help that I was getting was from my friends because I was in and out of hospital. Very shortly after meeting the new doctor, he started asking very, very nasty questions, very sexual questions. And that's when the abuse started. And the abuse, I was sexually abused for the next 10 years by this GP. Within these 10 years, I did go back, I did take my husband back. But one particular night, we had a blazing row, and I took a bottle of Valium, walked out to the front door, and thought I'm going to die. I can't remember anything else other than waking up in the hospital the next day, and I was absolutely terrified because one of the, well, I don't know what the word I want to use here, controlling mechanisms that the doctor had over me was his best friend, he said, was a psychiatrist at the hospital. And if I told anyone about the abuse, he would have me sectioned. So cancer, abuse. I'd also got an abusive husband that I'd taken back, couldn't take any more, and tried to commit suicide. Woke up the next morning, I wasn't dead. I do believe that the angels, and I don't know to this day how I was saved, but from that day on, I never took another Valium. Never ever allowed them to pass into my body, and continued for 10 years being terrified of the GP that was supposed to be helping me. Moving on, many, many, many years after, I began to work at the NHS when this GP walked into reception, and I was stood at the reception with one of the executive directors. I'd never told a soul about the sexual abuse. I'd kept it to myself. But when I saw him, I just said, could I speak to this lady that was a friend as well? Because I needed to say something. To cut a long story short, Kevin, the GP's surgery or practice was closed, and it wasn't due to the sexual abuse because people weren't aware of that, and I don't know the reason why it was closed. But what happened was his patients were sent to different practices, and this is when all the phone calls started coming in that he had abused women other than myself over the years he'd practiced in the village he was working. Excuse me for a moment. I wasn't privy to this information of why it was closed down. But then phone calls, people were ringing in saying that they'd been abused by the man as well. But nobody would speak up. Now, I didn't want to go to the police, but I then found out that two of the ladies he'd abused whilst being children. And that is something that I cannot abide, is paedophilia. I remember it very clearly. I was looking after my granddaughter, and it was a Saturday morning, and I decided to call the police. And I called the police, and I said he'd abused me over a 10-year period. What happened then, there was a long investigation that went on for 2 years. But 7 other women followed me to the police, and we took him to court, at Sheffield Crown Court, where he was sentenced to 11 years imprisonment. That was the highest sentence the judge could give him due to his health and his age. I was commended by the judge, saying that because of me, the other women had the strength to follow. But it was an horrendous time for me because it fetched back all the trauma of having cancer, of having to try to commit suicide and leave my children, of having to spend 10 years terrified that I would be sectioned at any time, which wouldn't, when I think about it, I was so naive, but then I was so frightened because of the power GPs did have at that time. What happened then was, I'm not saying I had a breakdown, but I just couldn't carry on. I actually went, I couldn't go to work for 3 months. My GP wanted me to go on tranquilizers again, and I said no. She sent me for counselling. That didn't work, and I said, the angels will heal me and my Qigong, and they did, and made me stronger. And it was a terrible time at that time for me, very traumatic. But I'm glad now I did it because it gave closure. I got the justice that I felt myself and many other women did, because there wasn't just 7 other women, there was lots and lots of women who didn't have the strength to go forward and go to court, because it's horrendous. The way that you're actually treated by the barrister, I can't explain how it made me feel.
Well, yeah. I mean, you know, he would have been questioning you, wouldn't he, as though that you're you're, you know, making this up, or it's this never happened, and you know it's all in your head, and you know, prove it, kind of thing.
He called me a liar, and that was the big one. He just said a liar. But before I went in, this lady came from the victim support, and she said, "Try not to take too much notice of the prosecution barrister, because they're only doing a job." That's terrible. They can actually ruin people's lives. You know, I'm a strong woman and I've got lots of help from the Angelic Realms. Those women didn't have that. But that man shouting and calling women liars, and that the GP was telling the truth, he was as guilty to me as the GP was. I felt it was terrible. I can't explain it.
Well, I mean, you did the right thing, and let's face it, you know, he did serve 11 years of his life for that crime, and I'm sure many of the victims felt that he should have served longer. I'm guessing he's passed away now.
He did. He passed away last year.
Yeah, yeah. And this was this a Doncaster Crown Court, or?
No, it was at Sheffield.
Oh, Sheffield.
It was the High Court.
The High Court in Sheffield. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Wow. And in that decade of the abuse and the, how long was it before the cancer became was put into remission, or however they would class it when you were, you know, cancer free? Was that sort of like 74 to, you know, what was that, 5 years, 74 to whenever it was?
It was about 79.
79 when you became.
It was about 79, Kevin.
Yeah.
He called me a hypochondriac as well, because I said that I was ill, and I was rushed into hospital with a huge cyst on one of my ovaries, cancerous cyst. You know, and it was a terrible man, but I've forgiven him.
Yes, and that, I mean, that's a huge thing, isn't it? Just to be able to forgive, well, not forget, but definitely forgive. In that time, then, when the mental and physical abuse was taking place, where was your spiritual practice? And I'm guessing, tell me if I'm wrong, that there really wasn't one.
There was actually. I've always had a strong connection to Jesus Christ. So in my mind, that's how I got through that period of time. I was also studying, I don't know if you've heard of a school called the School of Economic Science, Philosophy, in the Eastern Arts. I don't know if you've heard of that. I was studying that as well, which helped. But you see, Kevin, I've always had the angels with me. I've always had that beautiful purple energy healing me, surrounding me. Didn't know at the time, Just knew that there was something that helped me. And this is why I do believe, and this is just my thought, that I went through all this trauma so that I can help others, because I can say, I know how I felt. I don't know how you feel, but I know how I felt when I was going through it. And this is what I did to help me through. A lot of it's fear, isn't it, Kevin? A lot of it are so frightened, so naive. You know, people say, well, why don't you say something? How can you say that when there's a GP saying I'm going to have you sectioned? And you believe him.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, it
can't happen now because the public and the doctors are all protected due to practices now. You know, you don't get any one doctor running their own practice. It's a group, so everybody's protected in a way, which is good. But I can understand when I listen to young girls that they wanted to take them to court, and it's who's there for them afterwards, because it's the aftermath that's the worst. Yes, the court appearance, I'd never been in a court before. The court appearance was bad enough, but to go through that trauma and have nothing to be able to help you, I did. But I can just imagine people that don't. And I think this is why I want people to know what I do, and I can help them help themselves if they so wish. I have no intentions of healing people. My intention is to show people how to heal themselves.
Yeah, which is so powerful. I think that's God. I really appreciate that. You just said that there, because that's the key to all of this, most definitely as well. God, I think what you teach me as well is learning to forgive. But do you think we have to forgive in our own time, that we can't rush it, that it has to be in our own time? We can only be in our own time.
You can't rush it, Kevin. It just takes time. It takes time to process it. And you've got to have that knowledge also to be able to process it. And you can't sit there just think, oh, give me that energy, give me that. It's all on a physical level, because remember, we're in a 3D. We're in a 3D world, aren't we? And it's processing. It's quite difficult. And it's finding the right people, because I don't know. I couldn't talk like this to anyone else 20 years ago. Couldn't talk about angels. They thought I was crazy.
Well, didn't you do an interview on Radio Sheffield, and that even whenever that was, maybe 5-10 years ago, was it 5 years ago?
5 years ago.
5 years ago, and even on mainstream radio, even then, it was very difficult to, hold the space to have an interview like this, for example, without being ripped to shreds, on your beliefs and what the work that you do.
But that was a learning curve. That was a huge learning curve, Kevin. You've got to go to the right people. It was like, let me stand on my soapbox and say, I'm here to help. That's the very first time I've ever spoken publicly about my sexual abuse. I've never spoken. There's nothing to do with Radio Sheffield. Radio Sheffield was about the Qigong DVD and the angels, the angel workshops. That's all that was about. And it was like, I felt as though he was laughing at me, because he didn't understand. You're not laughing at me because you do understand. So it's going to the right people. And this is what it's all about, isn't it? Attracting the right people into your energy field so they can help you.
And telling your story is not, well, I don't feel it's, living in the past. I think it's sharing it with other people, to influence them and to just guide them. And if they're going through something, if they've ever been through anything, like an abusive relationship or whatever abuse that they've been through, that they're not on their own, right? And that, this has been your journey of healing, and maybe it can help others that are have been through similar, or it doesn't have to be similar. It could just be, if this message resonates with people, and that's why, you've just, your story is part of your work, isn't it? In a sense, it's made you who you are. Yeah.
And it's made me a strong, loving, and lots of people say powerful lady, but we're all very powerful. It's just that I've managed to let go of the trauma that's held me back. And if it's karmic, it's karmic. I don't know if there's such a thing as karma. I personally believe there is. I don't know. All I know is I'm at a point now that if I can help just one person, I'd be happy. But then I do help lots of people. But people don't know about my abusive life. I don't walk around talking about it because it's in the past now. In fact, to tell you the truth, Kevin, I don't have a lot of memories. You know, it's like I'm just happy living in this world as it is now. And there's nothing I can change other than change my life. And if my aura can go out, my vibration can go out and touch people, that's what it's all about.
Well, Meg, I've just really appreciated you for coming on today and sharing your story and being so brave as well to, you know, I mean, you've never spoken about this stuff before. Do you know what I mean? And I hope you inspire others to want to tell their story one day. And this was the right time for you to do this now. I get that, right? And I appreciate you sharing this very personal story on this show as well. I mean, you know, heartfelt for that as well. I just want to remind people that to get in contact with Meg, to go to megallen.co.uk. Again, that's been coming up on the screen. All the links for Meg and all the work she does, I've made links in the description below for people that may struggle to see that. Just go to show more below the YouTube video if you're watching this on YouTube, and you'll see all the links there as well. But do check out her website, because obviously there's you know, everything and more to do with Meg and the work that she does as well. Meg, is there any sort of you know, message that you might like to give, just, you know, whilst we're at the sort of, you know, end of this interview right now? There's any sort of message that you might like to give to the audience?
Even if you don't believe in angels, just ask for help. It will always be given to you. That's all I want to say, Kevin.
Excellent. Well, just Meg Allen, I just want to say just thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you for inviting me.